Elon Musk has always been someone who wants to do things that might seem impossible. Elon Musk, the visionary founder of the private space company SpaceX, has been working hard on his Starship rocket, a huge next-generation rocket that he hopes will soon take people to the moon and then to the Mars. Hello and welcome to our YouTube channel. In this video, we will talk about everything you need to know about the Elon Musk new Starship 2.0, which shocks the entire space industry. But before we start our video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell button. So let's begin. Musk has recently given hints about its amazing follow-up, a rocket called Starship 2.0 that's much bigger and better. The SpaceX Super Heavy Starship 1.0 will be able to send 100 tons into the orbit over and over again. But Elon wants the Starship 2.0 to be 4 to 8 times bigger. At least 33.9 million miles separate Earth and Mars. And Musk wants to send more than 1 million people to the Red Planet by 2050. Musk had to bring from Earth a lot of other things for the colony to be self-sufficient, which he said could add up to 1 million tons of stuff. This would cost a lot of money, so Musk needs to find a way to get people from one planet to another that doesn't cost too much but works well. The Starship 1.0 came to light at that time. To get an idea of how big Starship 2.0 is, let's look at the current Starship, the Starship 1.0, which is the first generation of the Starships. Starship 1.0 is taller than the Statue of Liberty when it is all put together and stacked on top of the Super Heavy rocket booster. It's nearly 400 feet tall. It's also taller than the Saturn V rocket, which was used by the NASA's Apollo program to send American astronauts to the moon. Since 2019, the big rocket has slowly been taking shape as a sentinel made of stainless steel alloy. Starship has a diameter of 30 feet, which is bigger than any other orbital spacecraft. This is so it can carry a lot of cargo, big astronomical observatories, or maybe even a lot of people. In terms of power, the Starship is stronger than any rocket that people have ever heard of. Starship rides on top of a tall rocket booster called Super Heavy, which is about 69 meters tall to get to orbit. Once the two parts of the spacecraft go through the stresses of the Earth's atmosphere, they break apart near the edge of space. As Starship gets closer to orbit, the Super Heavy booster that helped it get off the ground comes back to land near where it took off. A huge tower with mechanical arms that Mr. Musk called it chopsticks will try to catch the falling rocket and bring it to a soft landing. Later, new versions of the Super Heavy rocket booster B7 will have up to 33 Raptor V2 engines instead of the 29 Raptor V1 engine on Super Heavy B4. This will give the Starship even more engine-related capabilities. The Starship 1.0 is a one-way rocket that can carry up to 250 tons of whatever payload it needs to orbit. But if the Starship 1.0 was a rocket that could be used over and over again, it could only carry about 150 tons at most. You need a huge ship like that to serve as a reusable colony wagon and as a liner to carry people and goods back and forth through space. But Starship 1.0 isn't really enough to build a self-sufficient city on Mars because it can't carry enough supplies. Musk says that the next generation of Starship, which he calls Starship 2.0, will be twice as big as the Starship that will take people and cargo to the moon and Mars. Elon wrote on Twitter that the diameter of the Starship 2.0 will be 18 meters instead of 9 meters. He said this in response to a question from one of his many Twitter followers who wanted to know if he planned to build a bigger Starship in the future. This would make Starship 2.0 to 40 meters or 775 feet tall and 18 meters or 60 feet wide. This would make it the rocket with the widest base. The cross-sectional area would be 4 times bigger. The Starship 2.0 would be 9 times bigger inside. For the ultra-heavy Starship 2.0, it's likely that the engines would be made better. This means that the next rocket might be able to launch around 1,000 tons per launch. In case you didn't know, if you double the diameter of a circle, the area of the circle is 4 times as big, with its height doubled, Hypothetically, Starship 2.0 would have 8 times the surface area and 8 times the propellant tank volume of Starship 1.0. This means it would need about 8 times as much thrust and be 8 times as heavy. That would probably mean that the next generation of SpaceX Super Heavy would be able to send payloads of up to 800,000 kg to low Earth orbit, the Moon, and Mars, as long as orbital refueling is an option. That's about 800 metric tons. Musk needs very powerful engines to be able to launch a rocket as big as this one, which of course the Starship 2.0. This rocket would need about 60 Raptor 1.0 engines to get off the ground. Elon has been working on a new engine called the Raptor 2.0 that is stronger. Elon Musk gave an update on his favorite social media site, which made it sound like the first orbital flight of Starship might be coming up soon. Each of the above Raptor 1 engines puts up to 185 metric tons of force. Raptor 2 is now being made. It will be able to do 230 tons or more, which is more than 500,000 pounds of force. In a tweet, he talked about how the performance of the Raptor 2 engine had gotten better. So if the Starship 2.0 used the Raptor 2 engine, it would need less than 60 engines to get off the ground. Early in 2016, SpaceX had an ITS rocket design with a diameter of 12 meters. It was made to send 300 tons into the orbit and 450 tons to Mars after refueling. The ITS was about twice as big as the Starship Super Heavy, but it could carry 3 times as much. If the 18-meter Starship 2.0 was built the same way, it would be able to carry 9 times as much as the Starship. The 240-meter tall rocket would be about 75% as tall as the Eiffel Tower and twice as tall as the Statue of Liberty. Most of the time, a bigger Starship is better. During an argument with Jeff Bezos about the Artemis contract, Musk said that refueling the Starship for lunar landing would take 10 launches, or else there wouldn't be enough fuel to get there, and a crewed flight to Mars would become 100 times more complicated, which Jeff Bezos called high risk. But if Starship 2.0 is bigger and can supply all the fuel, things will be a lot easier. Due to its size, the Starship might also become a fortress where we can live for a long time before we finish all the facilities that will serve the lives of 100 volunteers who will be the first people to set foot on Mars. Another reason for a Starship that is so god-awful big could be that Mars needs some 600-ton payloads that can be easily broken up into 150-ton pieces. In the end, if the Mars colony wants to be self-sufficient, it's clear that they can't do manual labor there because of the harsh weather. There will be need of the things like iron ore excavators, civil aircraft, and steel mills with big cauldrons and rolling mills. Things those are difficult to divide into smaller loads. Some of the things that the Mars colony might need in the long run might not fit in the 9-meter payload bay, but the 18-meter Starship 2.0 would be better choice. With this larger and more powerful rocket, Musk will be able to achieve his objective for Mars much more quickly, and the vast payload of a future generation 2 SpaceX Starship could then deploy factories and advanced manufacturing systems anywhere. The powerful Starship's ability to carry more cargo per trip will make it faster to get supplies to the colonists and cut down on the number of trips needed to do so. Starship 2.0 also needs to be looked at from an economic point of view. You can't just make a big rocket if you have a few $1 billion lying around. Musk said that each launch of Starship 1.0 would only cost $2 million because it could be used more than once and would use less fuel. But keep in mind that one trip on the Starship 2.0 is the same as 8 trips on the Starship 1.0. The cost of launching the Starship 2.0 would be about $8.4 million per launch. The fuel would cost about $7.2 million, and the support operations would cost about $1.2 million. On the other hand, it's estimated that it would cost $16 million to launch Starship 1.0 8 times. So Starship 2.0 will have about the same amount of payload for the same cost. At first, there were 100 people in each group on Starship 2.0, Now, there will be 1,000. That's all we have for today. Share your views about the video in the comment section below. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon to stay up to date on all our new videos. Thanks for watching.